Hamas launched nearly 80 rockets at Israel on the same day the UN passed a resolution to investigate Israel for war crimes.
It puts the whole burden of the situation on Israel when the current crisis began, when Hamas launched rockets at Israeli cities.
Israel came under fire for attacking the Wafa hospital on Tuesday. The IDF released this footage showing how Hamas used the hospital to shoot at Israel, and a transcript of a phone conversation confirming the hospital was empty.
This use of human shields is extraordinarily cynical, it's grotesque, it's inhuman. But what is equally grotesque is that Israel was condemned in the Human Rights Council. It's a travesty of justice.
Meanwhile, Hamas leader Khaled Mashal said his group is simply defending what he called Palestinian land. Israel emphasized the playing field is not level. Israel gives up the element of surprise and puts its own soldiers at risk by warning Palestinian civilians to leave the places it will attack, while Hamas actually uses their own civilians as human shields. Yet with firepower on its side and footage of devastation on Hamas's side, Israel is often at a disadvantage to present its case.
I think people see the effectiveness of Israel's defense systems, of the Iron Dome, of their warning systems and shelter systems, and they see that as a consequence of those measures that Israel's invested a huge amount of money in, that there are very few casualties on the Israeli side.
Richard Kemp, former commander of British forces in Afghanistan, says it's Hamas, not Israel, that's committing the war crimes.
On the contrary, the Hamas-Palestinian side in Gaza, no money's been invested in putting civilians in shelters. And people see footage of casualties and they automatically assume, therefore, Israel must be committing a war crime.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State John Kerry continued his shuttle diplomacy towards reaching a ceasefire.
We have, in the last 24 hours, made some progress in moving towards that goal.
In the meantime, Operation Protective Edge entered its 17th day. Behind me is an IDF artillery battery. Besides hitting targets, Hamas targets inside Gaza, one of the main goals of the IDF remains finding and destroying the many infiltration tunnels dug by Hamas inside Israel.
If there is no border with that, if there is no boundary, if there is no limit to their access, then we are completely exposed and there is no line of defense. It's an unbearable reality.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, on the Israeli-Gaza border.